Each NSSA safe room producer must have a quality assurance plan. The safe room design must be performed by a registered engineer according to NSSA ICC 500, FEMA 320, and FEMA 361. An installation checklist is developed by the safe room manufacturer and the design engineer of record. Once these design steps are complete, both the shelter design and the installation checklist must be reviewed and affirmed by an approved third-party engineer. The third-party engineer must submit their qualifications demonstrating their knowledge of the components of safe room design to become approved by the NSSA Board of Directors prior to completing this work. This installation video was prepared to demonstrate the steps used by NSSA producer and installer members to ensure that the safe rooms are properly installed. We're installing a Wieser concrete 60/60 above ground freestanding safe room. Damage waiver was communicated with the customer prior to entering their facility about potential damage from heavy trucks which could possibly leave ruts or cause damage to things that are unknown to us. It's always a task to get a large truck into a yard to be able to place a shelter. Much care is to be taken to ensure that damage is not caused to customers' property. You can see now the shelter is being set down into the soil. He's now excavating the center of the excavation to place some rock to allow the drain hole to have something to leach into. Setting the shelter down alleviates the step up into the shelter. Bottom section is now being lifted to be moved over into position to be placed. Shelter is being lowered into the excavation. Will be checked for level. Sealant is now being placed on the lip of the joint of the bottom section. It's a butyl rubber type material. Top section is being hoisted into place to be set onto the bottom section. This installation is slightly different since this shelter was set up for display prior. The door frame is already installed. The door frame is normally placed in afterwards. Clamps are used to clamp a 2x4 to the bottom section to help keep the top section aligned while it is lowered onto the sealant. It's important not to lower the sections too quickly or the sealant will cause misalignment of the sections. This shelter is being provided with a step in front of the shelter to allow people to get into the shelter more easily. Shelter can also be buried further and provided with a ramp for wheelchair accessibility. Bolts are being placed into the top section to secure the frame into the top section of the safe room. Come back and go through the checklist with the customer. The center collapsing mechanism is being lubricated, greased. The door hinges are also to be greased. It's important that these are greased on an annual basis. In case of obstruction, the door for this safe room is provided with a lift-off safety feature. If the door won't swing open, a door lifter escape bar can be placed under the shelter door to lift it off its hinges to allow it to fall away. Here we're demonstrating the features of the door, that the door latch should be clipped in place when it's in use to prevent movement. Now we're going through each of the items of the installation checklist, each of the steps of the process. Make sure that they were confirmed and completed. This checklist is developed with the design engineer of record in conjunction with the manufacturer, and then also reviewed by the approved third-party engineer to confirm all of the necessary steps are taken to assure a quality installation. Each shelter is provided with an NSSA seal, certifying that the shelter was produced or manufactured according to the NSSA standard, and all steps of the installation checklist are being completed. The installer is going over the hazard recognition sheet about the lift-off safety feature of the door and the other features of the shelter with the customer. The customer is now signing the invoice saying the delivery is completed. GPS reading is taken at the time of installation. The safe room installation is now complete. The installer ensures that the customer is familiar with all features of the safe room and is notified that they will receive an original copy of the installation certificate, installation checklist, and invoice in the mail. This documented process was developed to assure all parties involved that the safe room is properly installed every time.